Fantastic. Thank you everyone who is attending today. This is the proposed October service changes public hearing. We are recording today's session. And today's speakers include Joe Gregory, the Service Planning Manager for Valley Metro, Kevin Tang, the Principal Planner for City of Phoenix, and Sam Stevenson, the Senior Transportation Planner for City of Tempe. Thank you guys for making yourselves available today as we go through the proposed transit service changes for the greater Phoenix area. We're going to talk a little bit about the service change process and go over the proposed service changes themselves, starting with Phoenix, then talking about Tempe changes, looking at additional proposed changes throughout the valley, and then paratransit changes. We'll talk about how you have opportunities to submit feedback to the planners and to the group, and we'll take any questions or public comment that you want to make for the presentation. There are a couple different ways that you can ask a question. So there is a Q&A panel that makes it a little bit easier for you to type a single question in. And this is how you would do that. If you're in your internet browser, there is a green button with a question mark that you would click on. Type your question in there and you can select any of the recipients, me, the panelists, or both, and click send, and we'll get your question to answer. If you want to put that in the chat, you are welcome to do that as well. If you're doing this on your mobile app, that green button looks like a 3 dots and a little green button. So click on that, then you should be able to find the question icon and enter in your question. So a little bit about the service change process. Our public outreach period goes through May 3rd to June 4th, 2021. For the service changes that are going to be detailed here today, we are looking at board action in June or July of 2021, depending on the change. If approved, these changes would go into effect on October 25th, 2021. So why do we have service changes for Valley Metro Transit Service and City of Phoenix Transit Service? So as the Valley grows and changes, the transit system needs to grow along with it. We look at changes twice a year and to develop an overall effective transit system, take a look at where we're growing in the Valley, maybe where transit service isn't needed anymore, and how we can best support Valley communities, businesses, and residents. Changes are determined a few different ways. The first way is, of course, through public input. So you attending this meeting today is an important part of our process. Any feedback that you provide does go into our overall report, and we listen to that and take a look at what we can do to fulfill it, what feedback we're getting from the community at large. We also look at the regional perspective. So how are we working from city to city? How is Valley Metro working with all of the residents who live here? And how can we make their transit system better? We also look at individual communities. So transit within Phoenix or transit within Tempe or any of the other cities in Arizona. We take a look at their needs and where they're growing and changing and see what service can be implemented or adjusted. For our community outreach plan, of course, with COVID-19, we are seeing a lot of web outreach and social media outreach. So if you saw one of our posts, thank you again for attending. Our comment period is open through June 4th, and we're collecting feedback a couple of different ways, including a survey that's online, in the public hearing today, and through email or calling our customer service. And with that, we're going to get to the first span of changes for City of Phoenix. And I'm going to ask Kevin Tang, the Principal Planner for City of Phoenix, to unmute and talk about those.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. This is Kevin, and I will be going over the 4 routes where Phoenix has service change proposals for the October timeframe. These change proposals are all influenced by the ongoing construction on Central Avenue for the South Central Rail project. A lot of these change proposals are actually already in place at this time due to current road restrictions. So with that, we'll go to the first route. It's Route 0A. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the first route I'll be going over is Route 0A. This route was split from the original Route 0 running on Central Avenue back in October 2020 due to the Downtown Hub and Central Station redevelopment project. Due to construction-related traffic delays on Central Avenue, it's become quite difficult to maintain the current 10-minute frequency on Central. This often leads to bunching and a lot of gapping throughout the corridor. As a result, we're proposing to revise the frequency to every 15 minutes between 6 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. on weekdays, and to a 30-minute frequency outside these times between Van Buren and Baseline. Frequency south of Baseline Road will be revised to every 30 minutes as well. And next slide, please. And in correlation with the Route 08 reduction proposal, we're proposing to add more frequency on Route 7 on 7th Street so that passenger may be able to utilize this route better to make connections in South Phoenix. Currently, Route 7 operates every 20 minutes in most of the day and runs 30 minutes outside of those peak hours. Our proposal is to double the number of trips between Van Buren and Baseline from 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. on weekdays. This will result in trips every 10 to 15 minutes in this corridor. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go back one more? I forgot one more thing. In addition to increasing the frequency because of construction activities on Central Avenue, the deviation of not going to App Pastoral Transit Center, as you're seeing on the map, will continue. And then next slide, thank you. Next is Route 8, that's on 7th Avenue. And same as Route 7, this will continue to not deviating towards App Pastoral Transit Center on Broadway. And to help with connection in South Phoenix, we're also proposing to extend the routes on the south end to Central and Baseline. Right now, the route ends just shy of Central Avenue on Baseline Road. And finally, the last route that we have is Route 52 on Rozier Road. And again, same as the previous routes I had mentioned, it is currently also not deviating into App Pastoral Transit Center. Our proposal is to continue the practice due to the road construction on Central. And those are the 4 proposals that we have from Phoenix.
Thank you, Kevin. You can ask a question during the broadcast if you have any questions about Phoenix or about any of the future routes coming up. Please feel free to type them into the chat. Oh, I do see we have one. Thank you, David. We'll get to that. And we will be able to answer those at the end, or if there is an opportune time, we'll do that now. For asking a question, again, here are the instructions if you want to type it in through the Q&A, or please feel free to send through the chat. I'm keeping an eye on that as well. And now we're going to go over to City of Tempe. So Sam Stevenson, will you please unmute and start going through your changes?
Sure, thank you, Jessica. So just a quick overview. We do have several changes proposed within the City of Tempe. One is more of a system-wide change that will impact all of our local routes. It's a change to our span of service. We propose to reduce the span of service by 2 hours in the evening, Monday through Saturday on the routes listed here. And then additionally, we have some more detailed changes for some other proposals for the other handful of routes listed on the bottom of the screen. And we're going to go through all those in detail. So the first thing, and I mentioned this, the first thing we're proposing for October is a span of service reduction across all of our local bus routes. We have 14 of these local bus routes that run through Tempe. They run on all of the major arterial streets all throughout the city. We're recommending a reduction to the hours or span of service on all of the local bus routes by 2 hours in the evening, Monday through Saturday. I want to start out by saying that our proposal to do this is very heavily driven by data. We did review our ridership data, and we see that late in the evening after 11 p.m., less than 2% of our weekly boardings tend to use the service during the time period that we're proposing to reduce. So we're hopeful that the impacts of this change will be minimal. And I do also want to mention that if advanced, the reduction of service hours would also apply to paratransit service in Tempe. Ride choice would be maintained as an alternative for ADA certified passengers who currently use the paratransit service after 11 p.m. Ride choice is available 24 hours a day. The second proposal is a slight frequency reduction on the Orbit Mercury route from 10 to 15 minutes during the weekday daytime. The enhanced 10-minute frequency was implemented years ago to help with capacity concerns on the Orbit Mercury, and we just no longer see those capacity concerns for a number of reasons. We've seen a reduction in ridership during the pandemic, and then additionally, we've been able to increase the capacity on Orbit service with our new, larger Orbit buses. With those considerations in mind, we do feel that a shift from 10 to 15-minute frequency on this route will continue to provide effective service. In fact, we still feel like 15-minute service is a very high level of service, and definitely an improvement over the level of service provided on many other transit in Tempe today. And now the next 4 proposals that I'm going to present all pertain to what we're referring to our optimization of service in the area surrounding Guadalupe Road. So the first option is shown here. The first component, I should say, is shown here. It's a realignment of the Orbit Saturn route to operate in a more east-west type pattern along Guadalupe Road. The route would continue to serve most of the same destinations that the Saturn serves today. It's just a change in the routing for the Saturn. Also, as part of the optimization is a proposed realignment of Route 62. I mentioned this is an optimization of service on Guadalupe Road, and this proposal reroutes the 62 away from Guadalupe Road to continue south on Hardy Drive further into South Tempe. The service along Guadalupe Road was essentially continue to be maintained by the modified version of the pattern that I presented in the previous slide. Next, we have Route 65, a proposed elimination of this route. Again, this is all in conjunction with the other 2 proposals that I just presented to optimize service along Guadalupe Road. We recognize that this is a proposed elimination of a route, but I want to emphasize that we do have several mitigations proposed that we feel will possibly counter some of the negative impacts of the route elimination, including the modification to Route 62, which I just presented, and a proposed enhancement to Route 66, which I'm going to present next. Essentially, all of the areas that are served by Route 65 today would continue to be served by the modified version of Route 62 and enhanced frequency in Route 66. So then, as I just mentioned, the enhancement to Route 66 would be necessary in order for us to continue maintaining capacity at peak hours along the Mill Avenue corridor. The route would operate at a minimum frequency of every 30 minutes, 7 days a week. And then during peak hours, during the weekday, so morning and afternoon peak, we would enhance the service with additional trips between downtown Tempe and Elliott Road.
Thank you, Sam. You are also able to make a verbal comment if you would like to make a comment at the end of the broadcast. This is a different way of doing it. So you can, if you're in the internet browser, again, look for that 3-button icon and find the raise hand button. Please wait to be unmuted by me, and then you can make your comment. You can do this on your mobile app as well if you're looking at us through your phone. And I'll put these directions up at the end again, just in case. All right, and with that, we're going to go on to the rest of the Valley. Joe Gregory, the Service Planning Manager for Valley Metro, is going to speak about additional changes throughout our system.
Thank you, Jessica. So I'm going to walk through these additional changes. 2 of them in Mesa, Route 45 and Route 20. 1 of them in Gilbert, Route 156. Some changes in Fountain Hills on Route 514, and then a new connector, the Fountain Hills Mesa connector, and then a change in Peoria with the Peoria on the go circulator. Next slide, please. So we'll start in Mesa with Route 45, and this is a service increase. This will expand Saturday service to 30-minute frequency and implement Sunday service to match Saturday. So currently there is no Sunday service on this route in Mesa, and this would bring Sunday service into Mesa on Broadway Road. Next slide. Another service increase in Mesa. This would also increase the weekday span from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and increase Saturday service span from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. In addition to adding frequency to 30 minutes. And then the new Saturday schedule would also be mirrored in Sunday schedule. So this would be another route that has additional Sunday service. A small routing change, a route modification on the Route 156 Chandler Boulevard. There's currently a deviation down to the Dignity Health Mercy Gilbert Medical Center. There's a lot of construction in this area, and the buses cannot perform the route as it's drawn in the purple here on the current routing. And so it would change to having a one-directional loop at the end of the deviation to still serve the medical center while still being able to operate through this area and serving some of the new construction areas. Like there's a new children's hospital that's going in there too. Next slide. So these two changes are paired together for the Fountain Hills. So the first would be to eliminate the portion of the Route 514, the Fountain Hills Scottsdale Express, that currently serves from Fountain Hills into Scottsdale. The Route 514 would now begin and end at Mustang Transit Center in Scottsdale. It would no longer continue all the way to Fountain Hills. Instead, there would be a new service for Fountain Hills residents in the peak times that would connect to the Gilbert and McDowell Park and Ride in Mesa, and then would allow residents to connect to the Route 535 into Phoenix or coming back out of Phoenix. So this would run on the peak time, so there would be inbound from Fountain Hills to Mesa in the morning, and then outbound from Mesa to Fountain Hills in the afternoon, matching up with the trips on the 535. And also any residents who ride this would also have access to connect to the Route 136 on Gilbert Road, which would also connect them to light rail, which would connect all the way through Mesa, Tempe, and Phoenix. These two would the new connector and connecting to the Route 535 would actually bring Fountain Hills residents in to downtown faster than the current Route 514. Next slide. Okay, so this is Pogo. This is a Peoria on the go. So we would bring a new service under the Pogo label that would run Friday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., serving activity centers within Peoria. You see all three will cover a lot of the portion of P83, where there's a lot of activities, a lot of restaurants, a lot of theaters, baseball in the spring, all those types of things. So we're trying to connect residents of Peoria into these destinations so that they can use these on Friday through Sunday. You see here that there would be 3 routes, green, red, and blue route, that would all run separate schedules, but they would all connect, all of these destinations into the residents of Peoria. So as we talked about earlier, some paratransit changes would also happen here. In Tempe, the service, the 2 hours of service that would be cut at the end of the night, that would affect paratransit service. But again, as we mentioned before, residents would still have access to ride choice. And then Mesa, the 45 and 120, the additional service would add more paratransit service on those days, especially on Sundays, where there currently had not been paratransit service. And also, Pogo would add new areas of service that would be eligible for paratransit in relation to the stops of the new Pogo service.
Okay, thank you, Joe. That was a lot of changes, and we have a couple questions, so we're going to get to that shortly. But just a reminder, there are some ways that you can share your feedback through the rest of the comment period, which is June 4th. You can reach us online by emailing us at input@valleymetro.org. You can complete the survey that's on our webpage, so that will have all of the detailed information and maps listed. You can make a comment and let us know if how much that's going to impact you or if it's not going to impact you. You can submit an official comment for the public hearing by writing your comment in the chat box of this webinar, by raising your hand to record your comment since we are recording this meeting, or you could leave a verbal comment at our public hearing voicemail inbox. So if you think of something that you wish you had said, you have the opportunity. You just go ahead and call 602-322-4479. Again, that is 602-322-4479. 4479. Just wait until the voicemail ends, and then you can leave your comment recording that way. You can also call customer service, and they are happy to take your comment and send it along to the project team. That's just the regular number, 602-253-5000. So again, please feel free to throw some comments here into either the Q&A or into the chat. Angela, I do see your question and also a comment about ride choice. Did you want to type that in, Angela, or do you want me to unmute you? Just let me know. All right, once more, this is how you ask a question if you want to enter it into the Q&A, or if you want to raise your hand, we have the instructions to raise your hand. Okay, Angela is going to type the question. Please feel free. We're going to have a couple questions here, Angela, so type away and go ahead and leave that, and we'll make sure to get your comment listed.
And while she's typing, I can answer her question about the 156.
Perfect.
That currently runs on the weekdays from about 5 a.m. to about 10 p.m. and then on Saturdays from about 7 a.m. to about 9:30 or so p.m. and then Sunday from about 7 a.m. to about 7:30 p.m. And that would be unaffected. The only thing that would change on the 156 is just that small turnaround at Mercy Gilbert Medical Center.
Okay, we have some questions here, both from the chat and from our survey, so I'm going to get started on those. First question is for Sam. Sam, how was public feedback considered with Tempe's changes?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Jessica. So I'll start out by saying that we've conducted several rounds of preliminary outreach over the last several months, and that outreach really helped us to develop the proposals that you all saw here today. We do review the feedback very closely, especially as our changes are finalized and as the comments come in, just to see if our proposals can be further refined to best serve the public. Maybe there's another idea that we can consider based on the feedback that we reviewed.
Thank you, Sam. Angela has a follow-up question to the 156, I think, regarding paratransit. So the letter I received in the mail mentioned paratransit service would change to match the proposed service changes. Would paratransit still operate on Sundays?
Yes, paratransit would still operate on Sundays, especially the Tempe changes that I assume that she received the letter for. The Tempe service would not change on Sundays, so there'd be absolutely no cuts for paratransit on Sundays. The only thing that would be affected would be those 2 hours at late night, Monday through Saturday.
Okay. Next question here. This one is for Kevin from David. Kevin, is the Ed Pastor Transit Center going to be permanently decommissioned since routes 7, 8, and 52 are being deviated away? Or is this just a temporary arrangement due to construction?
Thank you for the question. So at this point, it is a temporary deviation. We will have to see how the construction goes in the end. Our plan is to, once construction is complete, we will reevaluate all bus routing in the South Phoenix area to see how we can best interface with the new light rail system going down to the corridor. So we will certainly reevaluate it again when the construction is complete.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay. And this may be a combination question / comment for Sam about Route 72. So could an exemption to the late hours reduction in Tempe be made for Route 72? This is a heavily used route that connects nightlife districts in Old Town Scottsdale and downtown Tempe. Having late night service on this specific route could be important for customers, but more importantly, employees of bars and restaurants in both cities. So I think the question here would be, would City of Tempe consider a potential exemption for Route 72 for the overall reduction?
Thanks for that question, Jessica. I appreciate that. So yes, of course, we can review and we can consider any feedback or alternative scenarios that are presented to us. I do want to mention a couple things specific to the 72. First of all, the service in Tempe that we're proposing to reduce is specific to Tempe. So what I mean by that is that the neighboring cities of Scottsdale and Chandler to the north and south don't currently operate that late. So the trips that we're removing do not impact connectivity between Old Town Scottsdale and downtown Tempe. Another comment is that one of the things that we're striving to do just for consistency and to help us market our system effectively is to have some established parameters. Today we have a pretty consistent parameter for span of service, and that all of our routes follow the same guideline in Tempe. They run from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. The majority of our routes also follow a similar frequency guideline of every half an hour, 7 days a week, with 15-minute enhanced service during the weekday peak. And we've had a lot of success with that type of consistency. It helps us explain our system to people coming into town and people who are trying to use our system for the first time. We do see some value in that. But nonetheless, we can look specifically at the 72 to see if maybe there is a higher level of utilization on that route specifically. But I can already say we did go through our ridership data for every route individually, and there really were no outliers, meaning that we didn't identify that any specific local bus route had, basically didn't follow the trend. So on all the routes, we see the ridership really drop off after 11 p.m. That's something that we did review as we were putting this proposal together. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you, Sam. I have another comment/question here, and I'm going to verbally read out the comment part and then ask the question. It's about the Fountain Hills Mesa connector. And thank you again. If you want to throw a comment in the chat, I am going through those as they come in or into the Q&A. And this is the comment part. If you cut off the 514 Fountain Hills section, there would be no public transit from Fountain Hills until Frank Lloyd Wright. I, along with a couple of other people, used to ride the 514 every day prior to the pandemic to get to Scottsdale. We'll all have to drive in if you cut off Fountain Hills. And the question part, how did you decide on the Fountain Hills Mesa connector?
Yeah, so I can answer that portion of it. Especially since the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, the 514 has been one of our lowest performers. That section from Fountain Hills into Mustang, at most, would have a few riders, and we've been looking at it for a long time. And so when we came up with the Mesa to Fountain Hills Mesa connector, one of the things that we did look at was the existing travel patterns of Fountain Hills residents. And we did see that a lot of them use the B line to connect into Mesa as a faster alternative than using Shea into Scottsdale. And while we were looking at these, we really kind of tried to study some of the travel, and we understood that people would be able to get from Fountain Hills to downtown faster with this new service rather than staying the 514 service.
Thank you, Joe. I'm not sure if any of you will know this question, but I know we do have a few paratransit experts in the audience, so please chat if you know the answer to this one. Angela would like to know, paratransit has new vehicles. Can you tell me the exact model of the cutaway buses? I'm going to leave the chat open for a little bit and we'll see if we get an answer to that one. Let me scan down. Do you plan to increase the number of ride choice trips for eligible passengers? Angela, that's a question too. I don't think we necessarily have on this panel, but I'm happy to follow up with you on these. I will touch base on that one. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about any policy changes to the actual ride choice, the number of trips that they're eligible for. However, I do know that there are some options that that our paratransit folks have been working with some of the riders with to be able to more match their needs. And I think if they were to call in to the paratransit number, they could work through with some of our staff.
I'm actually going to go ahead and pull on Guillermo Gonzalez to talk a little bit about paratransit, but I want to make sure that we get to all of our proposed service change questions first. So again, if you have any more proposed service change questions, please put them in the chat and we will get to them, and then I will pull on Guillermo to talk a little bit about paratransit. Thank you, Guillermo, for that. Let's see. Okay. Kevin, this question for you. When will buses return to front door boarding?
Sure. From my understanding, currently our bus contractors are installing the operator shields on board the vehicles. This is an ongoing process. And I believe the current target, the last I heard of it, would be finishing around the summertime. So my assumption is by then, I'm sure Valley Metro and the city will put out more information for the public regarding changes. Probably at summer or after summer time will be my expectation.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, I've got another comment here. Let me see about the 514. And again, if you want to make a verbal comment, please let me know. I will go ahead and just read out what I've got so far here. All right. You have 3 guaranteed riders for the 514. I don't think you'll even get that number for the Fountain Hills Mesa connector. Are there any studies that persuaded you to think that the Beeline drivers would be willing to ride a bus?
Well, the studies we have are more generally that we would be providing a faster service, which is more attractive to that commuting those commuting riders. I mean, really, the speed getting into and out of downtown as quickly as possible are really paramount. So it can compete with a single occupancy vehicle. From our data, we have not seen 3 guaranteed riders out of Fountain Hills, especially since the pandemic. We've been seeing 1 rider every 3 days out of Fountain Hills. And even before that, there were, I think we weren't really seeing, a great amount of ridership coming out of there.
Okay, he is requesting to make a comment verbally, so I'm going to unmute him. Please state your name and make your comment. We will go ahead, and again, we're recording this, so I will transcribe it for our overall report. All right, you are now unmuted.
Hi. So my name is Xiaodong Wang, and I ride the 514 every day prior to the pandemic, along with another lady and another guy. And it was just basically due to the pandemic that we've been working from home, and so haven't been riding the 514. So my main concern is there's like really no public option from getting to Fountain Hills to Francois Wright, that section. So is that just going to be like something that's not going to be considered?
No, we'll certainly consider everything, and thank you for commenting, and thank you for coming today to share, your opinions and your comments. We will certainly, when we look at the public outreach and we look at what the riders are telling us, we'll certainly, take in every eventuality into account to make sure that we're serving the riders as well as we can. There are, there are some limitations as far as what Fountain Hills can provide, and also what Scottsdale can provide in that area. But we would certainly love to work with all of you to make sure that we're providing the best service that we can, and understanding what the ride patterns are.
Okay, heading over to Pogo Destinations for a question. Does Pogo Destinations go to Arrowhead Transit Center, Joe?
No, it will not go to Arrowhead Transit Center. It will stay on the basically on Route 83, and it'll be a little bit south of the transit center. But all three of those colored routes, the blue, red, and green, will be able to connect to the Route 83, which does go to the transit center. So a transfer would be required, but you would still have access to that transit center.
Okay. So one more question about front door boarding. So instead of just restoring front door boarding, has there been any consideration of moving to an all-door boarding to make buses move faster?
Sure, I can maybe provide some of my own input. As a service planner, I would love to see that. It is great to operate quicker, to get people to their destination faster. There are, of course, other considerations that needs to be done, in terms of fare collections and all those. But I like that. We have some internal talks, but we will. I will see what I can do to continue have that conversation internally.
Thank you, Kevin. And I'm looking for any additional questions. It looks like that we have one final comment from, please forgive me if I don't pronounce this correctly, Xiaodong Wang. And I am going to unmute you for that. But before I do that, please, if you have any remaining questions for proposed October, please let us know. After this, we're going to pivot over to paratransit and talk a little bit about that and answer some of these additional questions for ride choice.
-514. Hi, so
right.
I'm going to be selfish. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I'm going to be selfish, and I'm going to say basically, I've been riding the 512 and 514 for like 7-8 years now, and it's been like a great option for me. And I don't think you're really going to get any ridership on the Fountain Hills Mesa connection, just because there's no publicity and people don't know about it. And people generally in Fountain Hills don't want to ride the bus. So like, I feel like you have 3 consistent riders on the 514, and I want to know, like, in what other means, by what other means can I, try to persuade you guys that to keep the 514 as it is?
I can take this one. So again, it is very important for you to be submitting comments, and there are a couple of different ways to do that. Submitting through all of our different formats, we will make sure that it's included in all of the reports. You can make comments to any of our public meetings that occur for Valley Metro, and let me think of what else. Emailing through that public input at valleymetro.org is a good option. Commenting through the survey is important as well. I mean, your presence here is also very, very important in making those comments. They do go into an overall report that is sent to our entire project team and all of the cities for them to review. So that is the best way for you to make your opinion known and make sure that people see that there is desire for public transit in Fountain Hills. Now with that, I am going to pivot over. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So I'm going to pull Guillermo Gonzalez to the panelists so he can answer a couple paratransit questions. Thank you again for this, Guillermo. Okay, Guillermo, you are now a panelist.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
So just as a reminder, the questions we had from Angela, let me take a look. There was the exact model of the cutaway buses. Do you plan to increase the number of ride choice trips for eligible passengers? And is this a temporary change or a permanent change?
Are they regarding the Tempe changes?
Angela, feel free to answer that either in the chat or the comment. She did mention the 156 earlier, so it may be in, oh yes, she says yes, it's Tempe.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and answer the Tempe one. And Sam, correct me if I'm wrong in any of the information, but paratransit mirrors the routes, the bus routes, as well as the light rail. So in turn, as bus routes change, paratransit service area change. As bus routes service hours change, paratransit service hours mirror that as well. So yes, there can be lots of changes happening every 6 months, or they can be minor changes that don't really affect paratransit. It all depends. If paratransit changes are happening, we make sure that we let the public know through our outreach efforts. I hope that answers your question. On the right choice trips, if you do require more trips, or if you need longer trips, we ask you to always call the Accessible Transit Department at 602-716-2100, and we can see what options are available for you. Each community that participates in Ride Choice has various options. We can't really say what options are available to you until we actually speak with you. So if you have any questions regarding the trips with Ride Choice, go ahead and give us a call. Again, 602-716-2100. And the last question in regards to the actual model of the vehicles, if you could please give us your contact information, we'll make sure we contact you and provide you detailed information on our new vehicles.
Thank you, Guillermo. Angela, I believe I should have your email address from when you signed up to the presentation as well. So if you want to put that in the chat, the best way to contact you, or otherwise we will be reaching out specifically about some of these questions since we want to get some additional information. One more additional comment about light rail. So I'm not sure this has an answer to it, but I will read it out loud. Can the light rail be updated to show a progress map as it travels for a visual for passengers who are hard of hearing, or even when the noise level is too high for hearing the stop announcement? So I think it's kind of a general comment, but it's definitely something that, thank you for the suggestion. And we're always happy to take suggestions like that for how we can make transit easier for passengers. Okay. Thank you, Angela. Yes, we'll make sure that you're emailed instead of called since that's your preferred form of contact. All right. I am not seeing any other comments in the chat. I am going to, yes, I can put the survey link into the chat itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get the public meeting ended if we don't have any additional questions, but I will get that sent out. Let me stop this. And get that sent over. Thank you again, everyone who attended today. We appreciate the panelists for your time and also for the members of the public who came and gave comments, especially, and questions. I'm going to throw the survey link into the chat here very shortly. So please, again, let us know. You can always reach us at input@valleymetro.org, and we can take comments that way. But let me throw into here the survey that is going to be live until June 4th. Okay, there we go. All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude the public meeting. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit in case anybody wants to copy that link. or again, any of the contact details that we shared before. Thank you.